Welcome to Sips with Scrubs, a nurse podcast where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly as it relates to being a nurse. I'm your host, Nurse Laney. If you are new here, then welcome. And if you are returning, welcome back to Sips with Scrubs. Today, I am sipping on a caramel frappuccino from Starbucks. That's my little go-to coffee over there. I don't really do coffees like that. I just started getting into them like in recent years. So I'm still like experimenting with them somewhat. It's kind of similar to the wines. I'm like, I didn't really ever used to do those things. So now I'm like getting into it. But this is what I like right now. For hot coffees, I like the caramel macchiato. So I like my stuff kind of sweet. And that's really all in regards to that. Honestly, if y'all got any other recommendations, I like my stuff sweet. So if y'all have any other recommendations on things y'all think I should try at Starbucks or wherever, let me know down below in the comments and I'll give it a shot. But this is what I do right now. I'm like, if I can't get those or if I'm not in the mood for those, then I'm not drinking coffee pretty much. So that's where I'm at with coffee. So y'all pour up a drink, get a glass of wine, water, coffee, tea, whatever you're feeling at the moment. Sip along with me throughout today's episode. Today's bad scrub is about a nurse who is accused of shooting into a neighbor's apartment over piano noise in California. So yeah, what does that even mean? So let's get into this news article. So a registered nurse was arrested for allegedly firing several gunshots into her neighbor's apartment over piano noise in Arcadia, California. I don't know how to pronounce this lady name, so I'm not going to even try. I'm not going to butcher it. So apparently this lady who had been teaching piano lessons in her Sunset Boulevard apartment in Arcadia for nearly 3 years was getting ready for a lesson when a bullet was fired through her ceiling, barely missing her. Lynn had initially heard loud bangs around noon on August 1st, which she assumed was her upstairs neighbor slamming doors. Lynn realized the sounds were gunshots when the fourth loud noise came with a bullet through her ceiling, which struck a lamp on her piano. And this is what she's telling the news article. Suddenly, there's a straight bullet, Lynn told ABC. When I saw the hole, I was like, this is a real gunshot, so I called police immediately. Lynn also found another bullet hole in a cabinet in her kitchen. The bullet, which was fired while she was preparing food at noon, was stopped by a rice cooker on the top shelf. She believes her 39-year-old neighbor, Catherine Pugh, was targeting her rather than aimlessly shooting through the floor. Police said they found Pugh. I don't know how to pronounce her last name either. It's P-U-G-H though. They found Catherine intoxicated and in possession of 2 legally registered guns in her apartment. She was arrested and charged with 2 counts of felony for discharging a firearm at an uninhabited dwelling. I feel like I can't talk today. Come on, get it together. We discovered she shot 2 rounds through her downstairs apartment unit. Arcadia Police Sergeant Ryan Mulhall reportedly said, we found a bottle of tequila inside her house and she was exhibiting signs and symptoms of being drunk. It appears both the victim and suspect have an ongoing dispute over apartment-related issues, police tells Fox in a statement. It appears they were fired intentionally. Catherine, who moved in last year, had been complaining about the noise of her downstairs neighbor, according to Lynn. Catherine is reportedly a Los Angeles registered nurse who was honored with the Daisy Award at Huntington Health in 2019. The award recognizes excellence in clinical skills, caring, and compassions. There are 2 more shots discovered through Catherine's window and wall, according to the police. The bullets struck 2 other apartments, but there were no reported injuries. Catherine's bail was initially set at $250,000 before it was raised to $500,000. However, she was deemed a danger to the community by the judge, who then ordered her to be held without bail, despite Catherine not having a criminal record. So, Catherine's attorney says, to us, that's absolute tragedy. Ooh, child, I'm telling y'all, I cannot talk today. Catherine's attorney says to us that's absolutely tragic. Conceivably until she goes to trial, so that could take months, and in a serious case like this, maybe even longer. She's going to lose her job, her apartment, and her livelihood. She has no priors. She's a responsible person. She went to Berkeley. She got a scholarship. She got a 4.0 GPA. This is Catherine Mothers talking to ABC, and she's one of the best people ever put on this earth. Lynn does not feel the same way. She believes Catherine will seek revenge if she returns to the apartment above her. And her next court appearance is scheduled for August 16th. So that means it actually happened already as I'm reading this. But that's our bad scrub for today. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this case down below in the comments. I understand. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I understand. It's people who commented on this news story, and someone said, I had a neighbor who played an electric piano quite frequently. He was really good at it, professional. He approached me and asked if it bothered me. I said no, and he didn't believe me and insisted on taking me out for drinks to make up for annoying me. Okay. I'm just looking through these comments to see what other people are saying. I mean, I understand like having neighbors and you being annoyed with them and whatnot. So given the fact that she had like the firearms already in her possession, I mean, easily accessible, and she was drunk, she probably just like, F this, and then she, impulse, there's no impulse control sometimes when you're drinking. So I think that's really just what it was. I'm thinking like she was just like feeling some type of way. It's been getting on her nerves for I don't know how long. We've been having all these issues. I feel some sort of way. I'm drunk. I got a gun over here. I want the noise to stop. I understand. I don't agree with it, obviously, but I understand. But y'all let me know what y'all thought about that case down below in the comments. If y'all have any other bad scrubs that I can do on the podcast, y'all just go ahead and send them to me at Sips with Scrubs on Instagram, or also you can email me at I told y'all I can't talk today. Jesus. Okay. Or email me at nurse.laney@yahoo.com. Now we will get into what will Laney do. All right, so for this what will Laney do, it starts off saying, hey fam, I'm a new grad on the med surg floor days. I picked it because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm almost at 3 months and I just don't have the passion for it. I will say that this job gave me clarity on what type of pace I want, the patient to nurse ratios, time spent with patients, disease complexities, and the shifts. I'm a day nurse, but I think a night shift would be better for me. I floated to oncology with my preceptor and I enjoyed it. I also went to an oncology 4 for nurse clinical and I liked it. I'm now researching oncology nurse residencies now. My question is, when I start applying for new jobs, will my short time at MedSurg be a red flag? I'm about to update my resume, but I'm not even sure how to list this experience. I learned plenty in my time at the hospital, but I don't know how I'll look on paper. I know nursing is where I belong. I care so much for my patients, and I just want to continue to be the best caretaker I can be. Any advice and tips would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so just a little recap. So she's saying that she's been doing med search for like 3 months and she knows now that she doesn't have a passion for it. But basically she got a better idea of what she did like during that experience. And now she's like trying to figure out where to go, or like basically how it will look to others. So she's only been doing med search for 3 months. So my advice in regards to that, so she's still a baby nurse in my opinion, and I understand that now she knows like what specialty she wants to do, but I would at least, I don't know her situation, so it's kind of hard to tell, because I'm like, most new nurses are in a residency program, so if that's the case, I would just suggest to go ahead and finish out your residency program and then transfer, or if they have a residency program for the oncology unit, just transfer within that, or something of that sort. But if that's not the case and you're just working like regular and you're off orientation and all that, I'd at least try to get like 6 months experience before I transfer it to some other unit, just so you can have some type of foundation. She learned a lot in her 3 months, which is great. But like I said, she's still very much so a baby nurse. So I would just get the 6 months experience and then go to oncology. Oncology basically is like med surg with cancer sprinkled on top. But I mean, if y'all oncology nurses don't agree with that, then okay. But that's kind of how I think of it, because it's still adults. It's still like some of them are there just for cancer related things, but some of them are hospitalized for other issues too, and they're in the hospital. So that's why I said it's, to me, it's like med surg with oncology sprinkled on top. So it's not like she going to a whole completely different type of specialty. It's still somewhat related. Like, we get cancer patients on med surg units all the time. They're just not actively getting like chemo and radiation like with us, and sometimes they are. I've had patients before that were getting chemo, and it's like an oral chemo medication. And then I've had some where there'd be like an oncology nurse who'd come and do that portion for them, and then they'd go back to their patients or whatever. So to me, I feel like the experience will transfer over. So I feel like at least get the 6 months. If you have to apply for a completely different type of job, like go to a different hospital or whatever. But I feel like if you're able to transfer to oncology unit and still be within your residency program or however that works at your facility, then you could just go ahead and do that now, since now that you know what you would like to do. But I mean, I feel like you never really know what you want to do. Sometimes I feel like sometimes people have a good idea if they want to do, and then they do it, and then after a while it's like, okay, you want to do something else. Some people, they do know what they want to do and they just stick with that for forever. But I'm just like, I don't know, I kind of go back and forth with like what I want to do and what I don't want to do. Some stuff gets old real quick, so I'm just like, I don't know if you should like make sure that you really want to do oncology and you really do have a passion for it. I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt for you to go over there since you already don't care for med surg. So I don't know. I'm just not going back, by the way. And I see that she says she's researching oncology nurse residencies now. So yeah, I mean, go ahead and apply. And then, because it's still a residency program more than likely, and you could just let them know that I'm interested in doing oncology nursing after I floated to this unit. But since you have an oncology unit at your hospital, I'll try to just transfer residencies. To me, that's not a red flag, since I feel like a lot of people are understanding of new nurses moving around, because it's like I said, you don't really know what you want to do until you're doing it. And then sometimes once you're doing it, it's like, okay, this is not for me at all. Because you get a better idea of like what a day in the life would be once you're working it consistently. Sometimes it's just like one good shift, or it's like one thing that makes you like it, and then you realize that that one thing is not like the vast majority. So that's just kind of how I think about it. If y'all have any differing thoughts, go ahead and let me know down in the comment section. What would you recommend for this nurse to do? What's your opinion on what I said? Because I'd like to know. Today we're going to be talking about, I don't even know how to phrase it. We'll figure it out as we talk. But I'll just tell you where the thoughts of today's episode stemmed from. So sometimes I just be thinking about like where I came from, like with nursing, and how I used to feel about nursing, and how did I feel during my nursing school experience and stuff like that. And the thought, I can't remember what initially triggered the thought, but I remember I used to have like a time period where I'd just be feeling like really impatient, and I'm like, am I not done with this stuff yet? Am I not where I want to be yet? Like, this is taking a long time. So today's episode, I just kind of want to encourage people who are in that place right now, that like they're not exactly where they want to be, but they're working on getting there. I want this to be like an encouraging episode for you guys, because I've definitely been in that place before. If y'all are not familiar with this podcast, I've said before, I'm very much a Pinterest girl, and the thought probably triggered for me going down my little Pinterest rabbit hole, because I have like a whole like quote section on my Pinterest board where I just like go through quotes and I pin whatever I'm feeling at the time. So see, these are some of the pins that I pinned. during my nursing school years. So I'm just going to share them with y'all, and we're just going to talk about, just learning how to be satisfied with where you're at and not like taking for granted basically the current situation that you're in now. Like, of course, you're striving to get to where you want to be, but you don't want life to pass you up in the process. So I need to take a sip, child. My throat's dry. So I'm going to share with you guys some quotes that I pinned on my Pinterest board that all kind of like relate to this. And we're just going to talk about them together. And we could chat it up in the comment section down below, or like on my Sips with Script, what's it called? Instagram. My Sips with Scrub Instagram, where we could just talk about like how you're feeling right now and then how you learn to feel okay with where you are now. So let's just go through some of these quotes, why don't we? So the first one is, trust the wait, embrace the uncertainty, enjoy the beauty of becoming. When nothing is certain, anything is possible. I guess that's kind of like an interesting mindset to have. When nothing is certain, anything is possible. That's kind of cool, because it's just like, that's very much true, because it's just like, you don't know what's going on, so that means that anything could go on. And sometimes that could be uncomfortable, but then on the flip side of it, it kind of is like cool, because it's kind of like I'm not held down to like any type of standards, because I don't know what could happen from here. So it's just kind of like I said, anything can happen, anything is possible. So there is some comfort in that too. Enjoying the beauty of becoming. That's the part that I had a hard time trying to do, like during my nursing school journey, and like even like waiting to get a nursing job, especially like when you see other people around you getting stuff that like you're like, okay, when's it going to be my turn, sort of thing. But I always found out that in those type of interim moments in my life is like where I learn a lot about myself. And I feel like that's an opportunity where you're supposed to be learning something about you and the situation, and you're supposed to be taken from that. So I don't know. It's just like what's it called? Kind of like growing pains type of thing. But I always feel like there's always a lesson to be learned in different situations you're in. And then when you kind of revisit those type of situations, then you have like a better understanding, like, okay, I've been here before. So our next quote is, just because you aren't making progress as fast as you think you should does not mean you aren't making progress. Keep going. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of some of what I was just saying. I feel like sometimes we just put too much pressure on ourselves. I definitely know for sure society puts too much pressure on people. I feel like people be living like not in reality. Well, obviously that's social media, right? But I'm just saying, people only show you what they want you to see on social media. That much is evident. Every day is not a great day. You don't get to where you want to be overnight. Like, it's just impossible. You have to work for the things that you want. That's just what it is. All of these people who are successful and who all have this and that, some, like, if y'all go through some of these celebrity stories, it took them years to like get to where they're at now. And then even some of the ones that seem like overnight sensations, it's like, no, I've been singing since like I was 10 years old. Like, I've been writing songs for this long. I've been wanting to be an artist the whole time, but I had to write songs in the industry first, and then that's how I gained connections. Like, it's like, I like to watch like celebrity interviews and stuff like that, because it's very insightful, because I feel like people always see the end of where they're at, and even the end of where we think they're at now is really not the end, because the story's not over. The story is still continuing. So just to see like the progression and to see how they are, I think is inspiring. And I feel like if you get like the real timeline and like the work that they really did put in, like some of them, it might have been like a short time, but then it's like, okay, but I was working like 14-hour days. Like, I wasn't going to sleep. Like, I did this in 2 months, but I wasn't doing anything else. I was 100% committed to this sort of thing. So it's just kind of like, it makes it way more like relatable, I guess, because like I said, I feel like people just think that stuff happens overnight, and that's just not the case. And then aside from that, going back to this quote, Just because you aren't making progress as fast as you think you should does not mean you aren't making progress. I just think that we just try to jump to the end too quick, and then the sometimes what you learn in the becoming is more important sometimes, I feel like, than the end. Like in the end you get what you want, but like you become the person you want to be in the becoming. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but y'all just along with me and my thoughts today, so that's just what it is. So that's just kind of how I think about it, especially after, like I said, being in interim moments. I feel like in retrospect, I learned a lot about myself, and I gained a lot of like character development in those type of areas in my life to be able to appreciate the things that I have in the end, like once I get what I want. But like I said, the end is not the end because the story is still going on. So, oh, and then another thing I wanted to say in regards to that is like, that's kind of how I do my goals with the whole you're not progressing as fast as you think you are. One of my mottos I say for the year. So, segue just to give y'all some context. So every year, like on my birthday, I was inspired by my cousin to do this. I come up with a motto for my year. So like this year, my motto is one day at a time. And I did that because I just feel like I said, I feel like I be rushing stuff. Like I'm rushing through life, kind of. Like it's like I need to learn how to appreciate what I have now and learn how to live in the moment. And it's good to look towards the future, but you still have to live the life that you have now. You know what I'm saying? I feel like people just do that a lot. Like we just, like I said, we just trying to rush towards the end. I just want the end result. So the one day at a time, just telling me like, okay, you're making slow steps to get to where you want to be. Each day is a step. And then it's kind of like the whole New Year thing. When you get to the end of the year, it's like, okay, I like saved $20,000, but it's like the $100 a week that you saved. I'm not doing math right now. I'm just throwing out numbers, by the way. But it's the $100 a week you saved that ended up getting you towards that 20,000 at the end of the year. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you just didn't save $20,000 like in one night. No, like it took little steps in order to get there. So that's kind of like the one day at a time, is to make it less overwhelming, because sometimes when you plan things out, it's like, how am I ever going to get there? But then when you take it one day at a time, you break your goals down into like bite-sized pieces, then it's like, okay, I can definitely work out 30 minutes a day, or I can definitely drink 3 waters or whatever a day. Like when you just look at it as a day, it's like, okay, I can do that. Whereas sometimes when you look at where do you want to be next year, it's like, how the heck am I going to be able to do that? So the one day at a time motto just kind of helps me like focus, like I said, on one day at a time and learn how to appreciate things for where I'm at now. And that kind of ties back to that post to me, because it's like I said, it's you feel like you're not making progress as fast as you think you are, but you actually are, because it's just step by step. And then in like a year or so, it's like, oh, that actually wasn't that bad. Or like, dang, I saved that much in a year. Okay, that's cool. Let's do it again. And then in 5 years, and you saved $100,000. Like, just stuff like that. So our next quote is, in our waiting, God is working. I like that. I think it's just comforting to know, like, it's not all on you. Like, I feel like we try to take control of too much stuff in our life, and I feel like it stresses us out and makes us worry too much. And if you just if you put things in God's hands, everything that I feel like you want, or really everything you need, because it might not be what you want, but in the end, whatever you get is what you need. I feel like once you get to that part and it's like, oh, I thought I wanted this, but actually that's not what I needed or whatever. It was actually that I needed this, like that want derived from this need or whatever. I don't know. You just feel like fulfilled. And then, like I said, this is just comforting because it's, like this is not all on you. You got somebody else working in the background, making things work how you want it to work. And then with the waiting, you think you might want something now, but then when you get it, if you should get it when you want it, you wouldn't be able to do with it what you should, or like you wouldn't be able to manage it in a sufficient way or something like that. That's why I said a lot of the character development, I feel like, comes from like the interim moments of you having to wait. And then I also like to wait too now, because I feel like sometimes some stuff is just like impulse stuff, but when you wait and think about it and like just take some time to like reflect, sometimes that's not really what you want. You really want something else. So our next quote: the waiting, the meantime, the in between, it all serves a purpose. Trust your process, even the delays and detours. So I was actually about to get into that on that last quote, the delays and detours, because I was going to say that's part of the waiting, because it's like, dang, am I still not there yet? But like I said, it all kind of goes back to like, I feel like a lot of this is just like character development. Like I feel like a lot of the stuff in my life, I probably would not have been able to manage it as well as I do now had I gotten it early. That's kind of why I was glad why I didn't like get into nursing right away. I actually was majoring in something else and then decided to do nursing. So it's like if I was a nurse at a younger age, I feel like some of the stuff that we deal with as nurses, I would not have been able to handle mentally, like how people talk to you and then like, you know, work ethic and stuff like that. I feel like I would have had more of a hard time adjusting, whereas I felt like the way it panned out, it like I was okay and I knew how to deal with certain situations because I was older, like how to talk to people, how to be professional and things like that. I only knew that because of other situations I had been in while I was waiting to do what I wanted to do. So our last quote is, God's timing is perfect. Waiting is hard, but it's worth it. Breathe and let go of the need to know how everything goes. God gets no glory from your need to control this. Give it to God and watch fresh winds blow. So, I mean, that one just basically said everything that we've been talking about the entire time. Like I said, it's just a relief to know you don't have to do everything. Things are always going to work out exactly the way they're meant to be. So when you get into that mindset, a lot of stuff is just like less stressful. That's not to say that you don't put the work in and you don't try. Like if you want to do something or whatever, you're not going to just be like, all right, I'll just pray about it and then I'll pass the test. Nah, you still got to study, sis. Like you still got to study. You still got to put your time in. But then like after that point, when you've done all that you can do, then that's where it's like, all right, you got the rest. Like that's how I felt like with my test taking and stuff like that. If y'all haven't watched that episode, we talked about that in depth with Allie a couple of episodes ago. But that's kind of what I was telling her about, like with confidence and like you've done all you could. Like I know, like when I was studying and stuff, I've done everything I could up until this point to do the best that I could on this test. There were no more hours in the day that I could have studied where it would have been sufficient enough. There was nothing else I could have done. So at this point, it's like it's on me, but it's not on me. Like it's like whatever is supposed to happen from this point is just supposed to happen. If I don't understand concepts after everything I've been in, like maybe I'm just not meant to be a nurse. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause it's just like I've done this, and sometimes yeah, you could study like all these hours in the day or whatever, but it's like, is it even sufficient? Like sometimes you just wasting time. So I know like when I was doing it, it was like, it would be certain points where I'm like, okay, it's not going to benefit me to look at this book anymore. I either need to like go to sleep or I need to spend some quality times with friends or something like that, because me looking at this, I'm not like grasping anything from it. I'm just like literally looking at the words on the page. Like it's not benefiting me. I don't know if y'all are able to do that, but I learned how to do that, and I don't really know how I learned. I think it's just like from experience, like throughout nursing school, me knowing like when I'm actually feeling like I'm getting something out of the study session versus when it's like I'm not really doing this, my head's not in it right now. You could go do other things, or you could go do something else that'll help you out mentally aside from studying. And that's what I mean by like I've done everything that I could up until this point. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm not lazy. I know I don't just be trying to use that as an excuse to not study. So like, because I know that about myself, I knew like everything up to this point, I did all I could do. There was nothing more I could give to this. And so now it's kind of like, all right, God, like that's all you, player. Like, and what we gonna do? I just feel like your purpose is gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying, like, if I'm not meant to be a nurse, then I'm supposed to be something else, and that's fine. Just like as long as I'm like living and living in my purpose, that's my ultimate goal at the end of the day. And that's what I was talking to Ali about too. I feel like sometimes people put too much pressure like on, oh, I have to do this and I have to do that, and I'm like, oh, you really don't have to do anything. You need to get a job so you can take care of yourself, but it's just like, it doesn't have to be this job though. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, okay, everything that's supposed to happen is like that. What's gonna happen is supposed to happen. I'm gonna put forth the effort on my end, and then after that, it's just not on me no more. And then like that's just comforting. Like I said, like you just not gonna stress about it. I feel like as much. So that's how I felt in relation to like a lot of my tests at school, and then like in the NCLEX. Like I was telling Ali that episode, I prayed for like peace of mind type of stuff, like anxiety, like with let my mind not be jittery. Sometimes I get like super jittery, and I'm like that's like a low level of anxiety type of thing. Like you get jittery, like you can't sit still, you get antsy type of thing. Like I prayed for like not to have that type of energy. Like I like, let me have clear thoughts. And I'm like, I just clicked through the test, and I'm like, all right, like I said, I done all I could. I knew that. So, like I said, at the end of the day, it's just comforting, and just goes back to this quote, like God's timing is perfect. God gets no glory from your need to control this. So, I don't know. That's just how I be living my life, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all these quotes, and how do y'all feel about waiting, and what do you learn through your process of waiting and becoming and whatnot. Another motto that my church says a lot that I've like have taken into I don't know what it's called. What is that called? I have like, it's my thing now. I don't know. But anyway, it's so we say always becoming, never arriving. Because like I said, it's not the end. The end won't be the end until you dead. So it's just like the story's always coming. You're always becoming, never arriving. You're never going to be where you want to be, and then when you want to be somewhere, you're going to have new goals to do, or like there's always something to work on. There's something else always better to do to better yourself. It's just like the end is never here, and it kind of sounds exhausting, but then when you really think about it, it's comforting as well, because it's like you have your whole life to figure this out. You know what I'm saying? And so your whole life, you're trying to be the best version of yourself. Nobody telling you that you have to be the best version of yourself today. You got your whole life to do it. That's not to say like take your time figuring yourself out. That's just saying that like you have time. You could be active about it, but it's not pressure like that. As long as you're actively working toward it, you're making those small steps, that's all that matters. So I just like that. And like I said, it brings me a level of comfort. So hopefully this was encouraging to somebody out there. Hopefully somebody could relate to what I'm talking about. Hopefully this all even makes sense, because I feel like sometimes my stuff I have it in my head, but I'm not able to articulate it very well. So that's the end of today's topic, you guys. But now we're going to get into scrub and sip. So this week's scrub and sip is kind of going to be like two sides of the same coin. So these episodes are like going to release after the vlogs have actually taken place. But I have been floating in the ER for like the last week, and I'm scrubbing like what's it called? Just like systems that don't make sense. Some stuff they do in the hospital just don't make sense. And I'm like, does anybody rationally think about the way these things play out? I don't know. That's part of the reason why I had to get off the floor, because I start to analyze things too much, and I'm like a problem solver. So sometimes that could work out not well for me when like I have solutions that can't be implemented for certain reasons, or people don't care to do that because it's just the way that it's been done up until now, sort of thing. So I'd be like kind of getting frustrated sometimes, because I'm like, this could be like, everybody's life could be a little bit easier today, but nah, y'all want to do it like this. But I'm scrubbing like the ER. The way they was doing some stuff down there, it just didn't make sense. And luckily I had a charge nurse down there who was able to advocate for the folk pool nurses, because in the folk pool nurses down in the ER, we hold patients. So basically we're just like taking care of them until they could get a bed upstairs. So on our part, it could look like multiple things. Like it could look like, okay, we're going to try to get the orders they need or try to complete their admission while they're down here. Or we could be trying to get them discharged, like make sure all the consultants have seen this person. Or are they actually going home, or do you actually want them to stay the night? Like we're kind of like escalating certain things to like progress like their stay. How do you say that? Like we're trying to we don't really want them to go upstairs. Like if we could get them out and get everything like resolved in that amount of time that they're down there, then they could just go home, or for sure they need to be an inpatient, because sometimes people will go up there, they'll stay, and then the next day they'll be discharged, but you're like waiting on one test to be done, and the test probably is going to come back negative, but they just have to do it to clear the patient, sort of thing. So we kind of move things along in that way. So we kind of alleviate the ER nurses where it's like it's not too congested down there, and they're not having to take care of patients that are supposed to be upstairs, because there's some of them that they know for sure like they're going to be inpatient. So now at this point they're not even an ER patient, but they're just taking up one of their like numbers, like a nurse to patient ratio, and now they can't take care of somebody else who does need to be in the ER because it's like a delay. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of just like I don't even know a good analogy for that, but it's just like they go from the ER lobby, they go to the ER. Sometimes they'll like just leave right from there or whatever. Sometimes they need to be down there for like a little bit longer to get everything they need to get done, like maybe like 12 hours or so. And even with that, sometimes like they'll make them like observation, like okay, they'll probably discharge in like under 48 hours or 24 hours, and they'll give them to us. Like it's not like a ER type of problem. And then they have the ones, like I said, that they know they're going to get a bed, but they're waiting for people to discharge upstairs in order for them to go up. So it's kind of like a constant flow or whatever. But sometimes like it's like a fine type of system to keep the flow going very well. So I'm shouting out my charge nurse because she was able to foresee some things, because if we would be in instances where it's like, okay, we're going to get a patient, like the ER nurse is going to give us a patient, but all I'm about to do is like discharge them, or they already have a room ready. So instead of the ER nurse giving me report, and I've only had the patient like 5 minutes, and I'm calling the floor to give them report, the ER nurse could have just like forewent me, and the ER nurse could have just called the floor nurse to give report, since they actually took care of the patient the entire time. So my ER charge nurse, well, she was really like the hold nurse, charge nurse. She was able to kind of like, she was good at looking at stuff and like foreseeing like, okay, no, like give me another patient that's probably going to be here longer than that one is, sort of thing. So she was able to conduct the flow and make it go better. So I'm sipping to her in this episode, and what I'm scrubbing is like when that don't work out like how it should. So as y'all can tell, it kind of be frustrating, because it's like I don't know anything about this patient, but I gotta get a report on them based off of what somebody just told me. So all I'm doing is telling the floor nurse what the ER nurse just told me. I don't actually really even know anything about this patient. So it's like I don't like doing stuff like that. So I'm scrubbing that. But I'm sipping to that charge nurse. She was cool. Y'all go ahead and raise up y'all glass and sip along with me. And y'all let me know in the comment section, what are y'all sipping to this week, so we can celebrate together. And I'm going to see you guys in next week's episode.